Welcome to the Heart, Mind, Body Collective podcast, where heart, mind, and body meet and practice. This podcast is for those passionate about personal growth, emotional well-being, and self-mastery. Through conversations with healers, coaches, and thought leaders, we dive deeper into understanding the human experience. Your host is Rebekah Fisher, doula, hypnotherapist, and relationship coach.
Okay, there we go.
Hi, Belinda. Welcome.
Hello, lovely. So good to see you.
So good to see you too. That we're both wearing our
Yeah,
lullaby.
I know.
Saw that before.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. It's just so lovely to
Oh,
be here. So I'm very excited for us to have a little chat and just see how we flow.
thank you. I'm very excited as well. And we have known each other for quite some time. But I guess to start with, for those that don't know you, if you'd just like to introduce yourself and just talk a little bit about what you do, that would be great.
Okay, well, it's quite interesting to try and put myself in that little "what do I do" box. I think the way I like to answer that is I basically help people become the best version of themselves. And
That's
that means
beautiful.
that it's just about, whatever they're feeling called to do. And I work with that. So I meet them there. And then I've been blessed
Mm.
to have a whole toolbox that I could call on using tools like kinesiology, hypnotherapy, NLP, neuro linguistic programming, thought field therapy, Reiki, all sorts of different tools
Mm.
that can help them to get there. I think one of the things I absolutely love about this work is that it's about really understanding that every person has their own body's wisdom. And
Yes.
so they can show up. And most of them actually know in some way what they're really wanting to achieve or to change, but they
Mm.
don't know how. And so I help them
Mm.
with the how, and like there's so many beautiful things that are out there that uh, do, talk therapy and that kind of thing. And that's great. But sometimes understanding the why doesn't give you the opportunity to move into the how to change, you know?
Yes, that's
So
so
it's
true.
it's working with people on a very conscious level around how they can change. So
That's
that in
so
a nutshell
beautiful.
is kind of what I do. Yeah. And I love working with the divine magic that everyone is. It's just so beautiful when you connect with people in that way, Um,
Mm.
it really, I just feel so blessed. And it's just really funny because I was reflecting on my little journey of how I got here. And,
Yes.
there's no ways I thought I'd be doing this kind of stuff like 20 odd years ago or 25 odd years ago. I mean, I try and explain to a lot of the younger, clients that I work with that, in my day, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have like mobile
No.
phones even.
No,
Yeah.
no,
And so,
no.
when I look back and I see how all the synchronicity around the opportunities that came my way to learn these different things,
Mm.
it's really quite remarkable. I mean, I left South Africa. I was originally born in South Africa, and
Yes.
I left to go traveling after I'd done some kind of business degree studies, and I didn't really
Mm.
know what I wanted to do, but I felt called to travel the world, and that was a really big thing in those days. A little
Mm.
young South African Portuguese girl going
Yes,
traveling
yes.
by herself. So
Mm.
that did raise a few eyebrows. But to cut a long story short, I ended up through lots of different, paths, working mainly in corporate, doing what I call change communication, which is hilarious because I'm still
Yes.
doing. change
You're still
communication, but
doing it.
different.
Yeah.
And a lot of the communication that I was working on, for example, was around how to help people adapt to the change of the internet stuff coming on, because
Oh, right. Okay.
yeah, companies weren't online. They all had their like Excel spreadsheets. So it was all about
Yes.
how do we move into more of a digital online workflow.
Wow.
Yeah, I used to have really interesting conversations with people, and especially I worked in London for a little while,
Mm.
and we used to work really late on different projects, and I used to catch cab home, and
Mm.
I would always end up having these conversations with cab drivers, and they would tell me their life story, which was
Yes.
hilarious. And so the people that I would meet just seemed to have this natural ease that they would tell me all these things that were going on. And I thought to
Mm.
myself, hmm, what's going on here? Maybe I need to do a little bit of something with this. And
Mm.
so I was exploring some pathways there, and I thought, oh, maybe I should look into maybe counseling.
Yes, yes.
And then someone actually told me about neurolinguistic programming, which I'd not heard
Yes.
about before, NLP. And she said, look, that's a bit more dynamic, a bit more coaching orientated. It really helps you
Mm.
to move people, because that's what I really wanted, was to help them to shift and to move.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, lucky for me, I noticed there was an advert in one of these magazines, and Dr. Richard Bandler, one of the co-founders of NLP,
Mm.
was
Mm.
coming to train for the first time in the UK with
Mm.
this really great guy called Paul McKenna. He does a lot of hypnosis stuff in the UK.
I
Yeah.
yeah, I've got some of his books, his recordings, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
know him very well.
So
Yeah.
so he came
Mm.
over, and I just knew this was something that I wanted to do.
Mm.
And I love his training because it's very experiential, and I'm not kicking any
Mm.
other training, but I'm the kind of person who loves to just show up and learn,
Yeah.
and then I've got it. Whereas some of the other training, it's a bit more theoretical, and read these
Yes.
books and blah 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 blah. And anyway, I got so I just really, really felt like I had had these two massive pieces of earwax taken out of my ears. I started to
Mm.
hear how people were communicating their world. And I also started to become more aware of consciously what my world was, and
Yes.
how we naturally don't even think about it, but we tend to
Yes.
assume that my world is your world. And
Yes.
so the power of language started to really come through for me,
Mm.
especially with the hypnosis and all of that kind of stuff
Mm. Mm.
through the training. And I did get the opportunity to, assist at some of the Paul McKenna seminars, which were hilarious. And
Oh, wow.
he actually showed us a lot of his hypnotic techniques when I was doing my training, and
Yeah.
he's just phenomenal. So
Yeah, he's
there was
very
that
dynamic.
introduction to hypnosis there, and then I actually went
Mm.
on to study it in more depth with this beautiful lady called Vivian Ross, Fixie
Mm.
Ross. And yeah, she was brilliant with really going into the
Mm.
language patterns and all of that, because I just touched
Yes.
base with Richard Bandler and some of his stuff. So I really loved that. Went on to actually be able to train NLP. And I think that's
Mm.
where I'm really enjoying that space, because I feel that there's kind of this little gap with
Mm.
people in my field around really, really understanding what people are saying and how
Yeah.
they can then affect that. Because when people are
Mm.
communicating, they're actually telling you about their world. They're telling
Yes.
you, is their world more kinesthetic? Is their world more
Yes.
auditory? Is their world more visual? And we're all different depending on
Yes.
context. They're also telling you, like, whether they've got these things called meta models. And it's just simple
Mm.
things like, when someone says, oh, I always, you know everyone always,
Mm.
and that's a generalization. And so it starts to
Yes.
give you a really good understanding of where they might be stuck.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so that's just something that I've really enjoyed and really loved. And I feel that that's something that a lot of
Mm.
practitioners probably haven't had the opportunity to even explore.
Mm.
So I went and did the NLP, and I went and I did the master practitioner and the trainer. And then along the way, there were a couple of very interesting people that I met at the actual training. And
Yes.
one of them was doing what we call thought field therapy, which a lot of people recognize as EFT.
Yes, yes.
But it's the actual precursor to EFT. So
Right.
it's the founder, Dr. Roger Callahan, was coming over to the UK. And through this person, I got to then have the training directly with Dr. Roger Callahan, who
How
no longer is
amazing.
with us. But he
Yeah.
was the real source of what this modality was. And that's working incredibly with what we call different energy systems in the body. And they had phenomenal success with a lot of trauma in, Rwanda at the time. There was a lot of that war going on with the kids.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a
Yeah.
really, really, really powerful modality. And then one of the other guys that was at the NLP, at this stage, I had come to Australia on a bit of a holiday, loved it, and said, right, I'm coming back. And then at this stage, this gentleman that I'd met, Jeff, he was doing these kind of little things with one of the presenters. He looked like he was balancing him in some way. I said, what are you
Yes,
doing,
yes.
Jeff? And he said, oh, just a bit of kinesiology.
Yes.
And he said, I'm actually going to train the first kinesiology module, which is called Touch for Health. And that
Yes.
was the only Saturday I had left before I came to Australia.
Oh,
And he was
wow.
training it on that day. So I hopped on there,
Yeah.
and then basically came to Australia, ended up at the Mind Body Spirit Festival, never heard of it, ended up there. And
Yes.
then I walked down one of the aisles and there was a college there offering Touch for Health too in 2
Wow.
weeks.
Wow. That's
And then my
synchronicity.
whole kinesiology journey kind of started there.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, it's just phenomenal because in those days, there was no one to just Google or, look up
No, no.
things. And
Yeah.
I just divinely met all these beautiful people and had the opportunity to train with a lot of the actual founders of these things. So I think there's a beautiful energy that comes with that. So,
Yes.
so I feel
Yes, I
very
totally
blessed,
agree. Yeah.
and I did a little bit of work in Harley Street in London, and then came over here, and I
Mm.
kind of thought, I'll get back into corporate world, do a little bit of change
Mm.
communications, but my heart wasn't quite in it. So I thought, nah,
Mm.
just let's go in, let's start up your little clinic space, Reawakening.
Mm.
And
Mm.
here I am. I've been here for a little while in Manly, and yeah, just loving what I'm doing. Very, very grateful and blessed. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing. What a story. And I feel it is really powerful when you get to work with the founders of something that there's so much wisdom that they have, and they're sharing that with everybody. So it's really powerful. It's
Yeah.
empowering.
And I think the other thing is it's just that, a lot of the stuff, there's so much out there at the moment,
Yes.
and I just feel that the authenticity with it
It's
is so important.
yes, I
Um,
agree.
because, there's a lot of dabbling with things. So, I just feel
Mm.
very blessed. And I think everyone gets called to follow, what works for them. But I look
Mm.
back at my path and I go, gosh, they had plans for me and I didn't even know about it.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, it's so true. So, so true. And so, what will you be speaking about at the conference? A little bit. You don't have to share all
Sure.
of
Well,
it.
my thoughts around the conference, which I'm really looking forward to,
Mm,
is it's about kind of shifting people into a space where maybe they can look at themselves in a slightly different way, offering a new perspective. So I'm
mm,
going to be talking more about the being of you, which is really
mm,
about who
mm.
you really are. And I know that's a huge question,
Huge question.
you
Yeah.
know, but with my work and through my experiences, what I've come to realize is that maybe we're not that conscious about how we want to show up.
Mm, mm-hmm.
What's the frequency that we want to hold? Even
Mm.
waking up in the morning. What's your intention for the day?
Yes,
You know,
yes.
um, in this world, we're so task orientated. Oh, I've got to do this. I've got to do that. I've got to do the next thing. But it's the
Mm.
how you want to do that that
Yes.
is really important. And this is what I'm hoping to explore with people is, well, how do you
Mm.
want to show up? You know, is it from a space of gratitude? Is it from a space of hope? You know, if I ask a lot of practitioners like what they're actually helping their clients with and who they themselves are, if they answer the question, I am, question mark, and it's not, you know, I am Rebecca or Becca. I'm not a hypnotherapist. You know, it's I
Exactly.
am love. I am hope. You know,
Yes.
and what is your core frequency? And that is what people will resonate with, because we're
Yes.
actually leaning more into the whole energetics now of
Yes,
who
which
we
is
are.
so good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so
And
good.
helping people to understand that we are multidimensional beings, you know, and
Yes.
maybe a great way to try and get our heads around these things is just to think about water. You know, and I love the analogy and the example of water. You know, you have water as ice, water as
Yes.
liquid, and water as steam. Apparently,
Yes.
water exists as plasma in the quantum field, but I haven't quite got my
Yes.
head
Yes.
around that part.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've had those conversations with my son.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating. But, you know, sometimes we feel like the ice, you know, some days we're so heavy and
Yes.
we are so, you know, and the difference between those three states is the frequency that the
Yes.
atoms are vibrating at, you know, and their movement.
Mm.
And so
Mm.
if you think about yourself in that way, you know, some days you're just heavier and you're just
Yes.
denser and you're in this 3D world. And other days,
Mm.
oh my gosh, you're so connected and you're up there, you're like the steam, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But it's recognizing consciously that you are all these
All of
three,
those states. Mm.
and how to then embrace that when you're sitting more in the
Yeah.
ice and you want to be the
Yeah.
steam.
The steam.
You know, how do I shift?
Yeah.
Or
Yes,
how do
that's
I
so
just
true.
accept that it's
Yes.
okay for me to be
It's
the
okay
ice
to
right
be,
now?
yes, all right to
You
be a
know?
bit icy.
Yeah.
Yes.
But also recognizing that you've got this opportunity to engage with yourself on these levels. And those are just
Yes.
some of the dimensions that we have
Yes. They're
to
just,
consider, you know.
yes.
And then when you're interacting with your clients, or, you know, even your day-to-day personal development, who are you interacting with?
Yes, that's so true.
Are you
Mm.
working with the ice version of you, or the liquid,
Yes.
or the steam, you know?
Yes.
And it's just consciously then moving into that space of going, okay, oh, this is what my frequency is right now. Am I
Mm.
happy with it? Can I change it? How can I
Mm.
change it? But, you
Mm.
know, who do I really choose to consciously be in this moment?
Yes. And that's such a powerful choice because we do have that choice. And I feel, it is important to be mindful of that. I know through my studies of like Ayurveda and the
Yeah.
Vedic system, they speak about the different states in terms of like the guna balance, right? Or your doshas. So you can be sattvika, rajasika, or tamas, which is the light, and then you've got like the energy. You might need a bit of, energy and fire, and then you've got tamas, which is earth and groundedness, and we're made up of all of those.
Mm,
And at any given time, at any given moment, that guna balance which is made up of all the different elements, is going to shift. And who are you in relation to that? And you might wake up feeling really light, and yet the day is really heavy, and then that can shift throughout the day, and that's the
yeah.
frequency and the energy of the day. And
Yeah.
I was learning about that. I feel so blessed in that way
Mm, mm.
to have learnt about these things at such a young age, and that's this container for so much of what the
Yeah.
work is for me.
Yeah, and
um
I think you've hit such an important point, because no, not in my understanding, do we ever learn
mm,
this stuff as we're growing up? Like, unless
no,
you've
we
got
don't.
someone that you know, or it's in your lineage or
Yeah,
your family. But
totally.
and I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of this, this deeper connection to self that's going on at the moment, especially with our
Yes.
younger a younger generation,
Mm.
and the guidance that they need around that is just
Mm.
really lacking. And I think
Mm.
that's something, or maybe lacking is not the correct word. Maybe it's more about they can't really access it that easily.
No, it's not easily
Yeah.
accessible because
And
I
I
know
think that's what's missing.
I agree with you. Like I was very careful with the kids. Like we sent them to a school that had that sort of awareness. They were, the kids learn how to meditate very early. And the teachers, like, because I taught dance there, but we had to set intention and be
Mm,
conscious and present, and we might have awareness of what our moods were, but we had to kind of let go of that so that we could just be present for the
mm,
children and be in the moment. And,
mm,
so I feel so blessed and grateful that was available, and that was through my ex-husband where I learnt those things. So that was a
yeah.
blessing in that regard. But you're right, it's not that easily accessible. And I do feel like coming back to what you said before, there's a lot of watered down versions of of some of these things now, which I think also make it very confusing.
Mm,
And the overstimulation of all the social media and the constant barrage of all this watered down kind of information at times can
mm,
make it very difficult to access
yeah.
these
And
universal
I
truths.
agree. I feel it's just so confusing for people because
Mm,
one of the things that I feel we've lost is that real connection to self.
100%.
You
Yeah,
know, and
I
so
totally
if you
agree.
don't have that, how do
Mm,
you navigate? Where's your
yeah,
compass? And most of
you
the
get
compass
very
is
lost.
outside of us rather
Yes,
than inside of us. And I think that's a lot of the work that I do is help people to really start to connect,
yes,
with,
back to themselves.
yeah, who actually am I?
Yeah,
And when you've got that connection back, that's when you
mm,
can work from your
totally.
authentic self. And that's when you
Yes,
can align with whatever you want.
exactly. Yes, it's
Yeah,
so
it doesn't
true.
start going out, it's coming
It
back
comes
to
back in.
home. Yeah, coming back home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you feel more connected to yourself, even if life throws you curveballs, you've got practices and disciplines and you know who you are,
Yep.
so it's easier to navigate those
Mm,
challenges, which are going to happen in life when you feel
absolutely.
more connected to yourself
And
and you know who you are,
yeah, I think there's a real power as well in
and
I always have a little laugh with myself because I talk to myself all the time, as I'm sure other people do, but
yeah.
I talk to my human self, and
Yes,
I go,
yes, yes.
oh, my human is so angry today and it's so
Yes,
frustrated, and I just want to have a little stomp and a rant. And in that moment, I can go for it. Do you really
yes,
want to do
totally.
that? And
Yeah,
some
get
days
it
I
out of your
do.
system.
Some days I go and I have a little rant, and I stomp around and then I'm done. But I consciously
Mm,
chose in that moment. That's who I really
yes,
needed to resonate with. And other
yeah,
times, that other part of me, maybe that higher self goes, do you really want to feed this pattern? No,
yes,
okay. What
that's
what else
right.
can you do? What's this teaching you? What can you hold
Yes,
gratitude for? You know, and
yeah,
so it's just enabling that different dialogue, and then you
yes,
you stop reacting as much. You can really
yeah.
move into responding. You know.
Which is so powerful. And that is a beautiful place to be when you can respond rather than react. And even if you have to respond in a way that feels because it's that you have to put a stronger boundary with someone. Again, it doesn't feel painful
Mm,
it doesn't create anxiety. You're
mm,
just like, no, this is
mm,
this is the boundary. There's a
mm.
certainty that comes with that.
Yeah, and
So
And I think
great.
there's also a lot around that guilt or shame about just expressing what we
Yes.
need. And
Yes, I
I, I,
agree.
I have a little bugbear with this. This is one of the things that from a communication perspective, for me, there's like so much in a conversation, and one of the things that I really want people to kind of connect with is the understanding that, when you say something to someone, What is your intention?
Yes, I
If
agree.
if your intention is to hurt that person, then own
Mm,
it. You
mm,
own it. If that person gets
mm,
triggered and that was your intention, then own
mm.
it. Take
Own it.
responsibility for it.
Mm,
But we do live in a world now where if you say something and your intention is not to harm them or hurt
mm.
them, it's just about putting in what you need, a really nice, clear boundary, and they
Yes,
get triggered, then that's their stuff that they also need to look at, and
yes.
then, because of that whole dynamic, you might then get the blame because you've done something to them. And we really need to
Mm,
shift out of this and start working from a
yes,
space that goes, what did I contribute to that?
yes.
You know,
Mm.
was my intention really clear? Did I really actually want to irk them a little bit? And I
Yes,
wasn't being
yes.
honest about that. And so that frequency went through, and yeah,
Mm,
it got them to react. But at the same time, they could also hold that space that goes, that person's trying to really irk me now, but I'm choosing not to
oh
respond in
no,
that way.
I'm not going to
And so
react.
if we could then move into these powerful ways of dialoguing rather than
Mm-hmm.
arguing, that would be
Yes,
phenomenal, because I really
yes.
believe at some point we're all going to move into telepathically listening to each other's thoughts. And so we've got to
Mm,
do a little bit of housekeeping before we can do that,
totally, totally, totally,
right?
totally. Well, I think that comes with presence when you are just very, I mean, stillness is a funny thing because you can be still and just in terms of, and I think that is more about being present and then,
Mhm.
whatever's in the moment is open, which is certainly not still.
That's correct. Yeah,
It's
that
not
is so
still.
true.
And yeah, so, and then you're able to, through that presence, then all of our senses are open. And then we're able to receive whatever information we're meant to receive for the highest good in that moment. And I think
Absolutely.
coming back to intention, I remember being 19 years old and hearing about this word, the intention. Um, and in Sanskrit, intention's called bhavana. So, but it's not an intention in your mind, it's a full embodied heart, mind, body, everything's aligned and connected. So you actually embody the intention. It's like cellular. So, and I'm so grateful for that because I feel like intention is everything.
Mm, mm.
You know?
And I'm so glad you brought that up, because when you're talking about the heart, mind, body kind of conference, it's
Mm,
really like those different aspects of ourselves that are sometimes
yes.
not in alignment
In
with each other,
alignment.
you know.
Mm.
And I think we have a lot of conditioning, I think, through the
Yes.
schooling system, where it's all left brain, you know,
Yes.
not a lot of,
Yes.
I think people leave school and the left brain's so heavy, because they haven't actually developed the right brain. But, there's that
Yes.
beautiful book. I can't remember what the author's name is, but it's My Stroke of Luck. And it's about this
Oh, okay.
neuroscientist, and she had a stroke, and how she described her left brain was switched off and everything was being processed through the right brain. And she
Mm.
could connect with people. She could see the energy. She could feel their intentions. So there's so much of this going on, but very
Mm.
unconsciously. And I think that's one of
Mm.
the things, is as we start to connect more with ourselves, is that awareness starts to come in, that we
Mm.
have these different aspects. Um,
Totally.
and it's not the or, it's not the left brain or the right brain, it's the
No,
and. It's how do they all work
it's
together?
actually the balance of.
Mm,
Yes,
mm,
exactly.
mm,
Exactly. It's the
mm.
balance of.
And there's
Yeah.
such phenomenal stuff from the Heart Math Institute in the US around the heart,
Mm.
and how the heart is not just, the heart. It has
No.
so much more around it. But I remember when I first came across them, they discussed this research that they did, which was just, it blew me away. It was about how, I don't know how they did it, but they hooked up the brain and then the heart. They wanted to
Yes.
see which one responds first, which one gets the information first. And they
Mm.
threw out these random images on a computer. Some of them were like, a snake jumping out at the person,
Mm.
So some of them were like threatening images, and they wanted to see, which one responds first. And, unanimously, the heart actually responded before the
Yeah.
brain did, which is phenomenal. But the bit that
Mm.
got me was the heart responded before the image had actually come up on the screen.
Yes. Yes.
So it's like there is a knowing and a wisdom that we
Totally.
all have
Mm-hmm.
about the field that we're in,
Yes.
And so if we can start to, fine tune to that
Yeah,
and really
totally.
start to connect to that, that's exciting.
Mm.
Yeah.
I feel that is exciting. Exactly. That energy field.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I'm very excited to be here at this time as well. I think there's a phenomenal amount of change going on. And I
Mm.
think people are really shifting into the heart space more now. Um,
I totally agree with you. I feel like because I was so young, I was blessed because I was raised by a man, I guess, that had a lot more awareness. He was, a hippie from hippie from, whatever, the 60s or whatever. But,
yeah.
he I don't know, he just raised me to be true to my heart, and sometimes I go, Dad, what does that mean? What are you talking about? You know the way, Beck, you know the
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
just sit with it. You know the answer to that. And I'd be so frustrated some days. I'd be like, Dad, what do you mean? What do you mean? But that's it, that
Yeah.
reference back. Just
Mm,
sit with it. Just sit with
yeah.
it. And it was
Well, I
so, so
can
powerful.
I can really resonate with that because I've known you a little while, and
Yeah.
I was just remembering that before I even met you, because I'll just share with whoever's listening.
Yeah.
Beck was the doula for my second child's birth, and she was just
Mm,
phenomenal. Held such a beautiful
thank you.
space. But I actually had met Beck before. There was
Mm,
this bookstore in Manly, and I was
mm,
pregnant with my first child. I had not a lot of awareness around, things as much as I
mm,
do now, because that wasn't my
mm.
journey at the time. But I love this bookstore, and I'd go in, and Beck was always there whenever I went in. And I was pregnant with my first child, and I went to the counter just to get a book, and Beck said to me, she looked at me, you looked at me, and you said,
Mm.
why don't you go choose a crystal for the baba? And I thought, what a gorgeous, lovely lady. And then I thought, a crystal for the baba. And that crystal that
Yeah.
I actually got him is one of his favorite crystals. He loves that
Real.
crystal still. It's the green
Oh,
malachite, I think it's called. Yeah.
oh,
And
wow.
I put that, in his little basket that we had for him. And,
Yeah.
I think it's just, for me, the universe just is so incredible when you allow yourself to flow with the current of it.
Yes.
Because,
Yes.
you know, um, I didn't know way back then when I met you there that
Mm.
you would have come into my life in a different way, and
Yeah.
and a beautiful way, and
Yeah.
and so I think this is the thing. It's sometimes it's also holding that trust. I know it's
Yes.
hard, but it's holding that trust that you know you're part of the universe, and therefore the
Yes.
universe is a part of you. And
Yes.
so
Totally.
trusting that you
Mm.
will find alignment to wherever you need to be. And even
Yes.
if you don't feel like you're in alignment, that's actually you in alignment, because in order for you to find
Totally.
alignment, you might need to be out
Mm.
of alignment.
Totally.
And
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 have
so
awareness around that
yes,
and
you
actually
know,
ask for that. That's
and
all a
then
part of it.
challenges, even though they are challenges, can be
Mm.
met from a space
Mm.
of gratitude and grace rather than
Mm.
anger and frustration, even though those are not emotions that I think we need to dismiss because they're part of our
No.
human framework.
Yeah.
But it's just
Totally.
choosing a different path and being able to consciously feel like you can choose that path. So
Mm.
yeah, so I feel life is very magical, and
Mm.
I feel everyone just has such a magical spark within themselves. If only
Mm.
they could see that, if they could
Mm.
see how the universe saw them.
Yes, I know. It'd be
Yeah,
such a bit of a different world, wouldn't it? Yeah, be a bit
yeah,
of a different world.
yeah,
I know so many people have come to me over the years and they I guess, and maybe too, that's that. I mean, I was raised Catholic, but I also had very different experiences growing up in New Guinea, where, there was a spirit in the tree and a spirit in the river and a spirit
Right.
here and a spirit there. And being intuitive, I could see, sense, and feel these energies and the
Mm.
spirit and things like that. And then people kind of saying, well, the universe is outside of me. And I'm like, no, it's not like God is outside of you. It's actually within you, the
Mm.
universe. You are a part of that universe. So,
Mm.
it's really important, I feel like, for people. Well, I find that to remind them of that the universe isn't outside of you trying to punish you. Because that's often what they feel. It's like, well, the universe must be punishing me. I've done this. It's like, no, it's not punishing
Mm.
you.
Mm.
And
Mm.
whatever you ask the universe for, it's like it's you. You're actually asking a part of yourself to be able to access this.
Mm.
So yeah,
Mm.
it's
And I mean, I think
puts
what's
things
so
differently.
fascinating is, like with a lot of the past life hypnosis and the regression stuff,
Mm,
like we're only holding a tiny conscious
tiny.
awareness of ourselves right now.
Yes,
And
yes,
I'm looking forward to the day when we'll be able to really access all of that consciousness,
totally. Wow.
because
Mm,
I think you'll see what a gift you are, and how,
totally.
like, when you look at the choices that you've made and that you've ended up here
Mm,
today,
mm,
aren't you an amazing student, because you've
totally.
chosen differently in maybe other
Totally.
lifetimes.
Exactly, exactly.
Yes.
And I guess coming back to that heart, like in Sanskrit, the heart is called chitta. But like in the definition of Sanskrit, chitta is the storehouse as well. So,
Mm.
and I remember having a conversation with my son, one of my sons, because I have two, and he was about 11 or something, and he's like, oh, trying to get his head around this, whole reincarnation thing. But it's such a beautiful thing that he said, because he said, Mum, when he said, I think when we die, we take those that we love with us in our hearts when we die. And then
Oh
when we come back and we're reborn, we try to find those people again. And I
gosh,
was
that's
like,
beautiful.
that is the most beautiful definition of,
Mm.
how we repeat patterns and why we do the things that we do. It was
Yeah,
just simple.
yeah.
It was just, yeah, because it's all love at the end of the day,
It really is. It
So,
really
yeah, it
is.
was so
It's yeah,
profound for me to hear that. Yeah, I thought that
yeah.
was really, really beautiful.
Our children are our biggest teachers, I think.
Most definitely.
I always say, if you want to
Most
go on a
definitely.
great personal dedevelopment course, have children.
Have a children or be self-employed. That's the other one.
Well, that too.
Because that, like, I think your business becomes your baby and you're constantly birthing and rebirthing and,
Yeah, yeah,
ideas, your creativity and all of that. So,
yeah. And that's
yeah.
like, there's so many aspects to that. Like, I often, you know, say to people, you're not just the person who's doing the work. You're the accountant,
No.
you're the cleaner,
Yes.
you're the receptionist, you're the marketer. you
Totally.
know, you're doing everything. But I love
No.
it. I'm not going to complain. I love it.
No, I love it too. I love
Mm,
the freedom that it has brought me
mm,
in my life, and I love the long-term relationships that I've built with people. I love the experiences I've had with people. There's been so much growth and learning. And I guess for
mm.
me, and like we had that I birthed with you. It's so
Yes.
intimate. It's one of the most intimate experiences that you can have with people. It was I felt, such an honor to be there. And it was such a beautiful birth. So yeah, I just feel blessed in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I often ask my clients, like, if you didn't have to think about getting money, what would you be
Yes.
doing? And look, I
Yes.
don't want to dismiss, money. It's a
No, because
form
it's
of
an
exchange. It's,
energy. It's an
yeah.
energy.
But
Yeah,
at the
money's
same time,
energy.
it really saddens me when most of the people that I work with are saying they'd like to change their jobs. Whereas I don't even view this as a
No.
job. This
Me
is just
neither.
me having fun every day. I just flow, and it's just
Mm,
so, yeah.
mm,
So I really, that is my wish for everyone, to be able to show up
mm,
with joy and be authentic and
mm,
just be you,
mm.
and just do what you love,
Yeah.
but more importantly, be who you are, which is love,
Yes. Yes.
you
And
know,
then the money and the
yeah,
relationship or whatever it is
it
that you're
flows.
trying to manifest
Mm.
will actually happen. So
It will flow back in.
it
Yes,
will
I
flow
really
from
believe it
there.
does. Yeah, because you're
Mm.
coming from a space of abundance, and therefore your
Yes.
frequency is abundance, which means you're pulling in more of that.
Yes. Yes.
So I feel, this is a little bit of a challenge, because so many people are still working in survival mode.
Yes.
And then how do you, do what you love if you're just trying to get things done,
Yes,
and
that's
it's
right.
it's understanding the potential for us is to be in the and, yeah,
Mm.
I can do the survival stuff and I can do the thrive stuff as well, you know, and it's having
Totally.
understanding you're this incredible multidimensional being that is
Mm.
here to learn things in the
Yes.
human form, and therefore some of the survival stuff is teaching you who
Mm.
you want to be, who do you
Yes.
choose to be. And I feel that a lot of the learnings come from what we don't want, who we don't want to be, rather than who we do want to be. It's the opposite, it's like, oh yeah, I don't want to be that, or I don't want that. And so, but in there in itself, there's the contrast, and there is the gift of the
Mm.
choice, where
Mm.
you can say, yeah, So I do feel it's really important, for people to honor that we're not just here, to fill up the bank accounts. We're here to fill up the heart
No.
bank account, because
Yeah, 100%.
I feel like I'm the richest person in the world. And
Mm.
I feel so lucky to be able to say that. And I really want people to feel that as well, that they,
Mm.
when it's time for them to move on, that they've had a really rich, full, meaningful life.
Yes. Yes, I think that's important. Yeah,
Mm,
exactly. And I feel I don't, the Buddhists are good like that, in
mm, mm,
terms of, I remember reading something, I can't really remember, but it was like, well, like just imagine how you've got to live your life, like imagining, not like every day live your life like that, but, imagine how you want to, end your life
mm.
or when life comes to an end, how
And
you
yeah,
actually want to be,
mm,
and have you actually lived your life in accordance with that?
mm,
And
yeah,
that was such a power that had a powerful impact on me. I was like, right, okay, that's so true.
yeah, that is.
Because I
I
don't want
love.
to have regret, and I don't want to live with
Mm,
remorse, and even though sometimes those things will come up in
mm,
life, you don't have to live a life that's so attached to that, like, and where they're, and I mean that does happen at times. There's a lot of trauma for people. You
yeah,
understand that, but
yeah. Human
yeah, you don't,
experience. Mm,
it's a human experience. But I know for myself that I want to choose joy, and I want to choose love, and I want things to feel there, like I want to connect with that ease and that grace,
mm,
and the times in my life when it hasn't been present, it's like, okay, all right, what do I do now? Because
mm,
I know what that feels like, and
yeah,
I want to be able to lean back into that. So
yeah.
what will it take for me to achieve that,
And
and then work from there?
I think what you're expressing is what a lot of people actually really want, but they don't quite know how to do that, you
No,
know?
they don't.
And I think
Mm.
that's where I've been really lucky, in that with a lot of the stuff that I've done,
Mm.
when you look at something called the submodalities, they're
Yes,
happening very subconsciously for people, so they won't be aware of them,
yes, no, they
but
won't.
it's just changing some of those. So, I
Mm.
always use the example, if you think about something that you love to eat, I don't know if you've got
Mm.
something
Mm.
that you like eating. Have you got
Mm.
what are you thinking of?
Uh, I was actually I was thinking of something sweet.
Go for it.
Might
It's
have been
usually the
my
case.
hormone speaking right now. Yeah.
Yeah. What was
It
it,
did.
if you don't?
Well, it was
Oh,
like it's actually apple pie. I've
oh
got cravings for
yum.
apple pie.
Oh
But
yum.
anyway, so there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, was it something that you saw a picture of, or did you smell it, or how did you know it was apple pie?
I saw there was an image in my mind
Yeah, okay.
of
Now,
apple pie.
I'm assuming it was really colourful, because usually food that we love is colourful.
It
Was it
was
was? Yeah,
colorful. Yes, it
and it
was.
was probably a little bit big as well. Now, if I just
Yes.
got you to put it in black and white very quickly, does it feel like you want to eat it as much?
No.
No. Okay. Now put it back in colour, because I don't want to take
It's
that away
lost.
from you.
Feels like cardboard now.
No, put it back in colour, babe. Put it back in colour.
But that's better for my hips, right? But yeah,
Well, then leave it in black and white. But you
okay.
see, here's the thing, right? What your brain's done is
Yeah,
it's tagged something that you love, usually in colour,
totally.
and it's big.
Yes.
Now, what tends to happen is if we've tagged our lives in black and white, then can
Mm-hmm.
you see how for some people, they don't even realize it, but subconsciously, they're not really wanting to
Mm-hmm.
enjoy. It's very hard for them to feel motivated to go and do things, because there's an
100%.
aspect of something that they're probably not seeing in the way that's going to get their brain to work. So you can
Mm.
actually hack the brain sometimes with these little
Yes.
tricks to shift into the how a lot quicker. But we don't have
Mm.
the awareness of it, you know. Um,
No.
Usually, like people, for example, who've got really like phobias, you know,
Mm.
which are completely irrational fears, a lot
Mm.
of like flying, you know, when you get right down to the bottom of it, a lot of them are actually subconsciously seeing a movie
Yes.
of a horrific, like
Yes. Yes.
experience, and then they wonder why. And it's in color and it's huge, it's like the IMAX, and
Totally.
then they wonder
Yes.
why they can't go flying. But
Yeah.
that's what their brain is seeing, because your brain actually, I know this
Yeah.
sounds weird, but it doesn't necessarily distinguish between what you're imagining and what you're experiencing. It's your
No.
feelings that give you that, the intensity of the feeling. So it kind of,
Mm.
when you start to really understand, wow, you know, um, how do I actually get
Mm.
anxious? How do I,
Yes.
you know, get cravings? How do I, you know,
Mm-hmm.
limit
Mm-hmm.
myself?
Mm.
Then you can start to work with those little tricks, and
Yeah.
get your brain to just program it a little bit differently.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then in saying that, there is what I always call the gift of the spiritual awareness, which is,
Mm.
I believe we all have these things for us to learn, you know? So,
I totally agree with
you
you
know, we're
there.
not
Yes.
hacking through and bypassing,
No,
you know?
exactly.
It's about really, well, what is this that I'm learning about myself?
Mm.
How do I choose to be different? And how can I
Mm.
find the tools to help me to do that, you know?
Mm.
And if the pattern
It's
keeps repeating, well, maybe I'm still learning.
maybe I'm still learning. I know,
Or maybe
I
that
know.
apple pie is just so delicious.
Maybe that I need to eat it. I know exactly. I know. I know. I know.
The fruits
I
of the
know.
earth, you know, enjoy them.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I feel too like some clients, it's like, but I've done the work. I've done the work, and I've done the work and I've done the work. It's like, okay, we're just got to peel another little onion layer back.
Mm, mm,
There's just a
mm,
little bit more to do. And
mm.
that's also a part of being human.
It
That's,
really is. Mm.
it's
And I think, you
okay.
know, you're touching on a very sacred thing, which to me is sometimes we're not going to know what the answer is.
Exactly.
And that's when
That's
we
actually
move.
okay.
Yeah, and that's, I believe, is when we're moving into the spiritual realm, because that is
Mm-hmm.
really about us
Mm.
as humans trying to comprehend something that maybe
We
we
don't
just
understand.
haven't
Mm.
got the capacity to, you know.
Mm.
And I think that then creates an opportunity to have more of a connection with
Mm-hmm.
trust in
Yes.
that, and
Yes.
in yourself as well, knowing that, you know, one of the
Mm.
things I think is a great belief to have is that you're very resourceful. And so it doesn't matter
Mm.
whatever happens, you're going to find a
Mm.
way, you know,
Mm.
even if
Mm.
that way sometimes means acceptance,
Yes.
but you're going to
Yes.
find the way, you know.
Yes, that's so true.
Mm,
Exactly. Because
mm,
you sometimes it's like little, and I always think of Manly Wharf, with all the lights along there. I can say
yes,
this for you.
it's
But
beautiful. Yeah.
it's like those, like the lights just coming on. So like one after another. Sometimes you don't get the lights all on at once. Sometimes it is literally one light and then the next light and then the
Mm.
next light. And that's okay too. It's not always going to happen all at once.
No, because it can be overwhelming if all the
It can
lights
be
suddenly come on as well, you know. Um,
incredibly overwhelming.
and I don't know if you get this, but I think as well the world that we live in, there seems to be this kind of very um, you know, orientation around reward and punishment. You know, if I
Oh,
do the
it's
right
so
thing, I'm going to get
strong.
rewarded. And if I do the wrong
Yeah.
thing, I'm going to get punished. And it's quite hard for people to actually get their heads around that because,
Yes.
you know, I think there's a lot of assumptions that we make, like life is fair. No, life's not
It's
fair.
not fair.
You're not going to learn if it's fair,
No.
you know, you're not going to learn who you want to be if it's fair, you know,
Mm,
and yeah, it
mm,
is
mm,
brutal. It is,
mm,
it can be
mm,
very unkind and it can be
mm,
really, really, you know,
mm.
some days my heart breaks, right? And I
Yeah.
feel that it's really, really about understanding this experience here, you
Mm,
know, on earth is really, I think it's for those who really wanted to learn, you
mm.
know, on a very deep level, because it throws so many things at us on a
Throws
daily
a lot at
basis.
us. It
And
does.
it's not, you're not getting bad things happen because you're being
No,
punished. You know,
no.
it's just maybe on some level there's something there that you're needing to
Mm,
learn,
mm.
or that other people are also needing to learn. You know, I think we sometimes forget
Yeah.
that we're also part of everyone's puzzle,
It's collective. Totally.
you know,
Exactly.
and that we're also here to create
Yeah.
a certain level of frequency and awareness for
Mm,
people. And
totally.
sometimes people will learn things through us,
Yes, that's
and
so
that can
true.
be challenging too. You know,
I
um,
agree.
yeah. So
I agree.
you know, I think what was that? Oh gosh, that um, I don't watch too many TV series, but there was that
Mm.
Ted Lasso series that was on, and
That
I
was
just I
fantastic. I
just
did
ended
love
up
that one.
watching it. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
that was
there was
great.
a moment when he said when he said be a goldfish, you know,
Mm.
and I love that, because it's like at the end of every day, be a
Mm.
goldfish. Forget
Yeah.
about that day.
Yeah,
Tomorrow's a
totally.
new day.
Totally.
Choose who you want to be and show up
Mm.
as your beautiful authentic
Mm.
self, you know, and start anew.
Mm.
It's like a
Mm.
beautiful gift every day, you know. Um,
Exactly.
but the other thing I loved about Ted Lasso was how one person had so much impact on so many people's lives.
Yeah, he did, didn't he? That's so
Yeah.
true.
And
Yes.
I feel that people underestimate themselves in terms
Mm.
of, you know, don't ever underestimate how just showing up being you has
Mm.
already changed the world, because you're bringing in that frequency. There's no one else with that
Mm.
frequency, and the
No.
world has changed because you're in it, you know?
You're in that world.
Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah. So that's why you know, it's important to be a human being, not a human doer.
Yes, I do really, really, really like that. And I think too, sometimes it's hard because people like that level of unconsciousness, which is not saying they're unconscious, meaning that they're not a great person or, any of that. Like it's not coming from judgment. But I feel that our conscious choice becomes so important, and once you get that awareness and once you choose to lean into, okay, I have a choice in this, which
Mm,
is why I love hypnotherapy and NLP and the kinesiology and the healing,
mm,
and because it facilitates and can help anchor down, the power of that conscious choice because you're doing the work. So, and that to me is really empowering. And I'm
mm.
constantly reminding my clients, your free will, your conscious choice, that's your free will, that's your destiny. You're creating your destiny with your free will choices. So the more conscious you are of that, the more you've got to be, you can create more. And I really believe that we're not isolated, and birth really taught me that.
Mm.
We co-create. It's not my birth experience. I'm having that birth experience firstly with my baby. It's trying to make its way out of my body.
Absolutely.
It's not just because I think in this age it's like it is very me, 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 me. And
Yeah.
being the best version of yourself doesn't make us all selfish or
No.
narcissistic. It's quite the opposite. I feel you end up being more loving, more present, more generous, more of service, but just someone that knows their boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that co-creative, I really believe we do co-create. And so, what you said about there, that sometimes those experiences in life aren't about us, it is actually about the other person, and we can reflect back, things for those
Mm.
for those people. But yeah, birth was really powerful for me in terms of years of being with clients, and some struggling with, not support, like, in the debrief, if I didn't get the birth I wanted, and
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, and it's like, and helping them to learn to connect to their baby so that they could be in tune and in sync with that, and then that would actually completely shift the outcome. Was just incredible to watch and to be a part of.
Mm. And I
So
can hear that that would probably also be very challenging because, like you say, I think the world that we're in, there's a lot of survival, and it is then
yes,
becomes about me because
becomes
that's a
about
natural
me.
thing, right?
Yeah.
But I do feel that we've lost that sense of connection,
Yes.
and I feel that that's because that connection to self is coming from a survival place rather than a collaborative partnership
Yes.
space with others.
That's
Um, and
so true, because of the community, like
yeah,
that sense of true community.
yes,
We don't
yeah.
live in that true community.
Yeah,
So we're
and
not
that's why,
getting that reflection back.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I think this conference just feels so lovely because it's also
Mm,
about creating a community of practitioners who,
yes.
or people who want to show up differently in the
Yes.
world, or want to show up
Totally.
as themselves in the world, but they don't quite know
Yes. Not
what does
quite
that
know
look
how.
like or feel like, and how do I do that authentically without getting punished, because
Yeah.
sometimes that means you might have to change job. That sometimes that
Yep.
means that your relationships change.
Yes, it
It's
does.
sometimes it can mean a lot of stuff that
Mm.
feels painful. You know,
Yeah.
but being true to yourself, I think, is one of the most important things that you could be because
Mm.
there's I think there was some research in Spain that came out around the frequency of authenticity is so
Mm.
high,
Yeah. I think it
and
vibrates higher than love.
yeah,
I heard.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm always, one to kind of look at how do they get there. But
Yeah.
it just to me that was just so fascinating. Is that
Yes.
just honoring who you are, and I think
Mm.
that's the big question. Well, who am I?
Who am I?
Who do I choose to be? Because
Mm.
there is a choice there,
There
because you
is
can
a
be
choice.
lots of different
Mm.
multi-dimensional aspects of yourself as well. But in this
Mm.
conscious moment, who do I
Who
choose
do I
to
choose
be?
to be?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if I
That's
can't be
beautiful.
this way, then how do I learn or how do I get the tools
Mm.
so I can shift into this?
Mm.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
it's a really profound, beautiful thing, I believe. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. I think we've probably kind of covered it, but I guess because I've asked everybody,
Yes.
so I guess we have sort of covered it, but I will ask the question. So I
Sure.
guess, what does, being aligned, heart, mind, and body, and we can throw in soul, mean for you? Personally,
I
every
think for
day,
me, it's
professionally, or
yes, it's
all of the
just
above.
it's a lot of it's a very very deep question
It
because
is, yeah.
it's really about being firstly aware that you
Mm.
have these different aspects of self, and like I said, you're the water, which bit is the
Mm.
steam, which bit's the liquid. Maybe all of them are resonating at
Mm-hmm.
different places, and how do you
Mm-hmm.
bring that back into alignment. And sometimes
Mm,
there's this space of trusting that
mm.
you will feel that alignment. Like, I believe, that pendulum, it always ends up swinging back
It does.
and we all end up flowing, So
Yes.
when you don't have that alignment, sometimes that's because you're needing to be out of alignment
Mm,
in order to feel what
yeah.
alignment feels like. But
Yes.
the important thing is the intention to hold the alignment.
Yes. So
and
true.
and just connect with it and say, for today, I would love
Mm,
to hold that alignment, because it's
mm.
about being aligned in all the aspects. And what alignment do I choose to hold? Well, for me, I love holding the alignment of bringing hope to the world, because I
Mm.
feel that there's a lot of stuff going on where a lot of people feel maybe things are really challenging, and it's kind of,
Yes.
bringing that hope. So even if it's a smile, acknowledging
Mm.
someone, giving them a smile, seeing them saying, you
Mm.
make a difference, you know,
Yes.
giving that sense of it's important that you're here,
Mm.
um, and aligning with myself and acknowledging myself in that
Mm.
process too.
Mm.
And I think it's that connection, feeling what does that feel like? Because you can't
Yes.
say you're not connected unless you know what that connection or that alignment feels like. And
Mm.
it's very hard to tangibly put into words
Mm.
what
What
the
that feels
alignment
like.
feels like. But
Yes, that's
you
so
know,
true. You
you
do.
have a
Yes.
knowing. And when you work from that space, it's, for me, it's like I'm the expanded version of myself. I'm
That's a
connected.
great way of putting it. I love that because that's what it, for me too, that's what it feels
Mm,
like.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's that sense of oneness, but also individuality, holding both.
Yes.
it's it's a really
You
difficult
can't
concept
have
to
one without
explain.
the
Yeah,
other.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think so
It's
long as we've got skin and bones,
yeah,
you have to
yeah.
hold space for the polarities.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of acknowledging you're the
Mm.
drop in the ocean, but you're also the
You're
ocean.
also the ocean. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
beautiful.
it's about that alignment to what feels connected to source, if I can call it. I call it
Yes, of
source. I actually
course.
call him.
Yeah.
I call it all that is. Atty is my little nickname.
Mm, mm,
All that
mm,
is,
mm.
because when we feel that connection, that's when we are aligned with where we're meant to be. And um,
Yeah.
I think for me, it's really important for people to understand that, you know, every day you're actually living your life's purpose through your
Yes.
being. I
Yes.
don't know what to do with my life. I've got my
Yes.
children, they're growing up, or everyone asks them, what do you want to be? And I remember
Mm,
when people used to ask me that, I'd say, I don't need to be anyone, I already am.
mm, totally.
you
Yeah.
know and it's this expectation that you have to be
Something
this.
other than yourself.
Yes. Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
role. It's an engineer,
Yeah.
or it's this, or it's that. Like,
Mm,
I'm just going to be me. I'm just going to
yeah.
be the best version of me. And through
Yeah.
that expression, I might delve in a bit of this, or I might delve in a bit of that,
Totally.
you know.
Yes.
But
Yes.
the focus on aligning with my authenticity and who I am,
Mm,
that's what creates all the doing. So
yes.
working from that space. So
Mm,
working that out though, and
mm,
feeling into that takes a
mm,
little bit of time. And I think everyone feels it. It's
mm.
just
I
they're
agree.
not consciously sometimes aware that they're
Mm,
in that space or what that feels like.
mm.
And how do they then consciously actually do that on purpose?
Yes.
So it's not a random thing. It's actually you're doing it on purpose.
Totally.
Yeah. So that's kind of I hope that answers the question.
It does answer the question. No, I love that. I love that. And I call it source too. I tend to call it like absolute source. So,
Yeah, lovely.
because to me,
Yeah,
it's just like it's at whatever, the
yeah,
ultimate absolute,
yeah,
source of all.
yeah.
It
And
goes
I
beyond everything.
I just feel that unfortunately the word God has just got so many.
It's
religious,
loaded.
political
Yeah.
connotations with it now that
Yeah.
it really is off-putting to a lot of people. But there
Mm.
is, this is just my view. I wake up, I look at the beauty in the world. Like every day, we get
Mm.
this beautiful world to look at,
Yes,
and
we
it's different
do.
every day.
Yeah.
And the birds come out when they come out,
Yeah.
and everything works in a beautiful timing, including
Mm-hmm.
us.
Including us, even if
There
we
is
don't feel
something
like it.
divine about that. There
I
is something
know.
much bigger than our awareness,
Yes.
and I believe we're all part of that. It's not something separate to us, like you said earlier.
Mm.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, I don't feel it's separate to us.
Mm,
I
mm,
really, really don't. And I
mm.
feel it was it Greg Braden, Dr. Greg Braden. He wrote a book about the God gene.
Oh yes.
So, yeah, so we do have that. It is within us.
Mm, definitely.
So,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, like science is finally catching up.
I know, I know, I know. I know. I
That's what
mean,
I
I've
say a lot about my work. Oh, science has
it
finally caught
is.
up.
I know. Well, I love it
Yeah.
how they can talk about their like the quantum physics and stuff because it's like talking about, the quantum field. I'm like, yay, yay, finally.
Finally.
There's words.
Yeah, I mean,
Words
I
for what
always
I
make a
see.
joke
Yeah.
because, it just shows you how things have changed in my day. Like, you'd never talk about a chakra, like, can you imagine
No,
your like
no,
grandparents talking, oh, yeah, I went to see this person
no.
and she aligned my chakras for me,
I know.
never would have happened.
I know. I
And now
know. I
it's
know.
like,
And now
people talk
it's
about
really
going, oh, yeah,
talk about it all the time.
and I had a sound bath. And, like, it's
Yeah.
wonderful, It is
Yeah.
wonderful, but it's also, as you said, it can be very confusing for
Yes.
people. Yeah.
Yes, yes, I know, I know, I know. I'm just my grandmother was she was a converted Catholic because she was
Uh-huh.
Protestant, and my grandfather was Catholic. So,
Right.
back in the day,
Yeah. You couldn't have the two.
you couldn't have the two. Those two defied many kind of, yeah, like she was from Lancashire and he was from Sheffield. So
Oh,
there was a whole
wow.
class difference and,
As well.
lot
Mm.
as well. So she gave up her inheritance to be with the son of a coal miner.
Wow.
And all of
Well,
that.
she
But
was being authentic to her
she
heart,
was
wasn't she?
but
How
both of
beautiful.
them were. They were always kind of true. That's what I feel so blessed to have had that from my grandparents. But I do remember when I started to meditate, and and she was very concerned about it. Because
Yeah.
and I had to say, Nan, it's like prayer. That's all it
Yeah,
is. It's just
it
like it's
is.
another form of prayer. It's
Mm,
okay.
mm,
My soul is safe. It's
mm.
okay.
Yeah, there was
You
a lot
know.
of attachment to the occult and things like that with a lot of the
Oh,
stuff that
totally.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
everyone's got to go with what they feel in alignment with as well.
Yes, that's so
So,
true.
maybe they had
Yes.
a really not so great experience in another lifetime, and so I get
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
I think it's also just for me, it's also working with people that are meant to come and work with you, so just
Yes.
trusting that process too is that people will be
Yes.
aligned to work with your frequency
Mm.
because that's the frequency that they're wanting to
Mm.
tap into.
Mm.
And so, like, for me, touch wood,
Mm.
I'm not having those kinds of clients because those are not the ones
Mm.
that I'm, you know, with some of
Yes,
the work that I'm doing, that just they wouldn't find what I do
yes.
appealing.
That's
Or
right.
if they
That's
do,
right.
it's maybe because they want to change their minds about it.
Yes, that's true. Exactly, exactly. And I think that's really important. That is a beautiful way to work. And not everybody works that way, where they
Mm,
really trust in that, where the clients that come to you are meant to be for you and there's alignment there. And I've worked that way for a long time.
I
And
know you
that,
have.
that, that to me is, for me, that's a part of success. It's not always about how much money I have in my bank account. And in fact, I don't worry about that, because what is more important, and all of that gets taken care of, is because my intention is about the experience and the relationship, and whatever it is my client needs, and we're facilitating, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we actually, even though we talk about being the facilitator, again, it's co-creative in these
It is.
spaces. And
Yeah.
that's what blows me away time and time again. I think to do this work, you've really got to leave your ego at the door and be in the moment with your client. And then
Mm,
I mean, I know it's great you have your toolkit, and I think it's really good to have all of that, prep and the tools and everything there, but to come at it intuitively and to be
mm,
open to go, okay, and then, yep, this is what we're going to do from that point.
mm,
There's a lot
mm.
of magic in that, and also it is effective because people then really remember the experience of that, and they feel heard and they feel seen, and they can release and they can let go, and and then things shift for them.
Yeah, I think you've touched on a really interesting point because um, one of the things I feel, especially with practitioners, is it's this turf war that seems to go on with
Oh,
people, you know, around, oh, my clients or my this or my that,
yeah.
even teaching. I mean,
Mm.
I just have a slightly different view because I really believe that whoever's meant to work with you will find their way to you.
Yes, I agree with
And
you.
we're all here to work at
Yeah,
different levels, you know, and
yeah,
so but that, you know, in our society there is this affiliation with, you
yes,
know, if you're earning this much, maybe you're really good, you know. There's, if you're
yes,
fully booked,
yes.
maybe you're really good. But, you know, for example, I'm not too attached to any of that because for
No, me
me,
neither.
my intention is to work with people who need my help, and sometimes that
Yeah.
means I might get a call the day before, and you know
Mm,
what, there's a 2 hour slot free on that
mm,
day, but it's for that client because they actually needed to see me, you know.
yes.
And so it's really trusting. That's how I
Yeah,
work. Other
me
people
too.
might work differently, but for me that's
Mm,
kind of, I'm very comfortable with working in that way.
mm,
And I also feel, you know, there's for me it's just a gentle reminder that this is not my work. I'm sharing.
mm-hmm, mm,
This is about, I feel, I'm here to share
mm,
the gift of whatever is coming through me. I'm expressing what
mm,
all that is wanting for
mm.
us. And I'm just a little channel, you
We're a
know. And
channel.
so,
Mm.
even to use the word teaching, I don't feel like I'm teaching anyone.
Yes,
I'm just sharing and
yes,
reminding people what they already know,
yes,
you know. and
yes.
and I guess that probably comes back to why I really resonated with Reawakening, because it's
Mm,
because people are already awake but they're not consciously there yet, and so it's this
yes.
space of reawakening to who you really are,
Mm,
like on that soul
mm,
level, you know, but consciously we're still
mm,
finding that space, you know.
mm.
And realizing that your life,
Mm.
you're responsible for it. And maybe before you
Yes.
came here, this is the script that you wrote. And,
Mm.
you know, I always make a joke and say I didn't read the fine print sometimes.
Yes, that's right.
But,
That's
you know, to
right.
step back and say, wow, I actually wrote the story potentially. Why would
Mm.
I have chosen to have this challenging person in my
Mm.
life? Or why would
Mm.
I have
Mm.
chosen this experience? I'm not saying
Mm.
there's not other factors in there because that's a very
Mm.
simplified version. But you know, if we really start to hold ourselves accountable as the co-creator, and you know,
Yes.
so
For your part in it.
you
Yes, I
know,
agree.
as instead of kind of saying, so you know, this is so unfair, like, so
Yes.
why would I have potentially wanted to have this experience in my life? That
Mm.
takes the
Mm.
conversation to a whole other level, you know.
Oh, it totally does. It
Mm,
does. It
mm,
really does. And if people can't wrap their heads around that, then it's still also important to ask that question. Okay, well, how can I choose to respond to this situation?
yes, yeah,
So, because otherwise, when we're in the reaction, we're
mm,
reacting.
mm.
So, and
and
it doesn't
and
really
you know,
doesn't often
that's not to
bode
say
well.
people don't have some awful experiences, and I'm not, you know, but
Yeah.
at the same, and I'm not saying, you know, that in any way, shape, or form that because we all
No,
have
that's
free will.
right.
But at the same time, there's also an aspect here of saying, oh, wow, like, what was going on for me
Mm,
from a energy perspective that I was
mm.
potentially, or maybe there's something going on here for the other person that I'm helping them to learn. Don't
Yes,
know,
yeah.
there's so many questions that I don't know we'll have answers to,
No,
but it's
exactly.
it's it's trusting that it's there.
It's coming back to trust and coming back to, okay, I have the choice. I can choose to
Mm,
learn new things. I can choose to rewire my nervous system. I can choose to breathe a little deeper. I can choose to be a bit more present. And
mm,
okay, I don't quite know how to do that, but all right, I'm going to, find out how to do that because, this is what I'd rather be in a position where I feel like I can choose to respond rather than be reactive
mm,
and then feel disempowered in my
mm.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, there's even a lot to go with the physiology of that, but we won't get into that now because I'll
Yeah,
talk a
there's
little bit
so
about that
much.
at the
We're gonna
conference. Yeah.
yeah,
But
good.
yeah, well, we can start wrapping up because it's been so lovely. Oh, we could talk for
Exactly.
ages,
We could
couldn't we,
talk
Beck?
forever. So, how can people, get a hold of you? So, what's your website and all of
Okay.
your contact
Sure.
details?
So probably the best thing is just pop onto my website if you like. It's
Mm-hmm.
www.reawakening.me, M-E. So it's kind of a little bit different to the Australian one. But you can
Mm,
also just email me on belinda@reawakening.me. There's a little form you can fill out if you want me to get in touch or book a little 15-minute little
fantastic.
chat. My number's on the website as well. So,
Okay.
yeah, if you feel called, if you've got questions or you want to have a little chat, just get in touch. I'm not a huge social media fan. I
Mm, mm,
I I tend to work more with personal connection. So
mm.
yeah, don't be surprised if some of my stuff's not quite that recent or current, but
Mm.
I'm there in spirit. Yeah.
Exactly. Well,
All
thank
right,
you
beautiful.
so, so much. And
Oh,
I'm
thank
looking
you.
very forward to having you at the conference in October.
I'm so
So,
excited.
yeah. So
And thank
thank
you
you for
so much for
coming
the
on
opportunity to have this beautiful
today.
chat again. It's like
Oh,
having a cup
no.
of tea.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Beck. I'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Okay. Bye, lovely.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on the Heart, Mind, Body Collective podcast. Our mission is to bring together conversations that inspire healing, growth, connection, and human potential. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who may need this message right now. Until next time, take care of your heart, your mind, and your body.